readings. So when you find them, that will be the right time for you. I am going to go ahead and use my singing bowl to clear the space. And now, if you would like, just relax. Take some deep, contemplative, healing breaths. Breathe in the divine white light of Source. And then just exhale and sigh out anything that's no longer serving you. Anything that you would like to release, 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 release. The cards that I will be using today I call this the Lunacy deck. It is a deck that I designed myself. And it has 3 parts. Gallia est omnis divisa in partes tres. That's a little Caesar for you. So the first part of this deck is the lunar mansions. There we go. The second part of this deck is the major arcana of the tarot. And the third part is the lunar cycles. So that's why I call it the Lunacy deck. The tarot deck that I will be using in conjunction with this deck is Matt Hughes's Luna edition of the Ethereal Visions deck. And we will be starting with the air sign of Gemini. Today I am reading for Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. The new moon was just in Aquarius, and the moon has now moved into the sign of Pisces. After I am done doing the tarot readings over here, I will be going over to the members side of the channel and doing crystal scrying for air as a collective. So if you would like some crystal scryed messages, you're invited to join us over there. I apologize. I'm throwing some of my cards on the ground. So we're going to start with Gemini. And Gemini, if you would, just relax. Take some deep breaths, and close your eyes. If you are so inclined, of course. Allow anything that is bothering you to rise up to the forefront of your thoughts and wait there patiently while we read the cards. And then, of course, I'm going to pull some of these cards as well. Yeah, this one, I think. Okay. Interesting. And finally, one of the Lunar Mansion cards. Very interesting. I'm going to get my notebook out. Excuse me, I apologize. And marked down all of my timestamps. So let's get started. Gemini. The lunar mansion that I have for you is Al Zubra, which is the tail of the lion. This would be the final lunar mansion in Leo before the moon moves into the sign of Virgo. We're talking about the hindquarters of the lion. So there's a lot of activity still in this lunar mansion, but the activity is not as strong or as driven as you see with some of the other lunar mansions, like the forepaw of the lion, the mane of the lion, but still very directed. This is waxing gibbous energy. So this is right before the full moon. Now, I do want to point out that the full moon will be occurring in this lunar mansion. So there might be things about that that are cyclical for you. We're starting right after the new moon, which was yesterday or the day before, and moving into the full moon a couple weeks from now. And in fact, we do have the card of the moon coming out here. This is the letter Rho, which is, I think that's the number 100. Yes, I made the numbers really small. So that has a value of 100. It is associated with the astrological sign of Pisces. And you can see on the one side we have the domestic pig and the suckling. And then on the other side of the bank, we have the feral hog. And it's very interesting that it only takes a month or two for domesticated pigs, when they're released into the wild, to develop much coarser body hair and tusks, like their feral brethren. And there is some to do with that kind of duality on the moon card. So as a Gemini, there's a lot of dealing with dualities. And in this case, we could be looking at a very narrow path between being domesticated and being feral. and that a cycle is coming around for you over the next couple weeks. Here in the past, we have Libra's card, which is justice, and this card is upright. So there could have been a situation very recently in which you received justice. And this could be something that is still kind of unfolding for you, because even though this card is in the past, it's showing up upright. So that gives it a certain amount more immediacy. We have a few very strong major arcana cards in your reading. Next, we have, in the current situation, the Temperance card reversed. Now, this is your opposite sign, Sagittarius's card. So all of these Sagittarian traits, that would be higher learning, could be travel, basically all of these things that we do to transcend our present selves. So Gemini is about dealing with these dualities, but it's also about dealing with our immediate surroundings, communication, things like that. So Temperance, we're looking at artistry, mastery, practice, and this kind of alchemy that occurs with fire and water, because remember, Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. So where it's showing up reversed for you in the current situation, there could be things that you need to be practicing, that you need to be cultivating and working on. Temperance can be about things like balance and patience, but is also more so about the overall practice and artistry and mastery that is required to achieve those things. Crossing the Temperance card, we have the Ace of Swords. So here is another air sign card for you, Gemini. This is pure elemental air energy, and it is about change. So this is very much like the Ace of Spades, which is also aligned with the Death card from the Major Arcana. But the difference that we're seeing here, this hand is gripping not the hilt of the sword, but the blade itself. And atop it is this crown. So we're speaking more about mastery in this case. And also the pain that can come with the difficult changes that we need to make in our own lives for our own benefit. So where we have these cards coming together, they are crossed like this. I think that there is a certain amount of practice and almost like a meditative rhythm that would help you to achieve the changes that you desire. And that if you are instituting this practice, these routines that bring moderation and balance that we see with the Temperance card, that it could improve things for you in this current situation. So down here in the MMCLI, when I read the Celtic cross, I like to imagine that on top of it is superimposed the 12 houses. And down at the bottom of the 12 houses is the MMCLI. It is the cusp between the third and fourth houses. And it talks a lot about the origins of situations and also where things begin that we'll end up seeing in the midheaven, which is up at the top, which is the cusp between the 9th and 10th houses. So the card that we have is the Two of Wands, which is an excellent card to have in this position because it speaks to planning, surveying, setting a path, a route, Two of Wands is planning for manifestation, doing such things as vision boarding. It can be about writing affirmations. It can be about putting together a resume. So all of those different activities would fall into the planning and forethought of the Two of Wands. And of course, with the twos, we also have a sense of duality, as what we would see with your sign, Gemini. The Moon card is also about paths being unclear or not well illuminated, right? And so, with this planning process, it looks like you are able to cut through a lot of that lack of clarity. Here in the future situation, we have the World card, and it is in the upright. You can see this closure. The World card is Saturnian energy and Earth elemental energy. So very grounded, very established. It is also associated with the fixed signs, which are not depicted here on this card, but are still very much a part of this. The world, much like the High Priestess, does know all and even can control the evolution, the revolutions of the planet with her dancing. So, for you in the future, I think you can see not just the finish line ahead of you from where you're starting, but also how these situations will evolve and how they will resolve. Up here in the midheaven. So this is the goal or destiny of the current situation. And remember that we did have here what I was talking about with the Temperance card and using this practice and routines to institute balance and mastery in your life. The eventual outcome of this will be the Two of Pentacles upright, that you will be achieving that balance. The Two of Pentacles can also represent business partnerships coming in for you. More commonly, we associate the Three of Pentacles with these working relationships because it has to do with your particular environment. But if you are going into business with another person, Gemini, this is a very good goal or destiny card to see for that. And I do apologize. I live in the valley here in Los Angeles, and it's not uncommon for people to just randomly rev their engines. So if you hear people revving their engines, I assure you that it's because they're super cool guys. And not because they feel inadequate in any way whatsoever. I kid, of course. That is going to conclude the Gemini reading for today. So now we will be moving on to the sign of Libra. And Libra, if you would like to take some deep, relaxing breaths, breathe in the divine white light of Source. And just exhale any stress, sigh it out, any tension, any anxiety, and allow any issues that you would like more clarity about to gradually and gently float up to the forefront of your thoughts. Don't worry about fixating on these things. And certainly don't get into any kind of cyclical feeling about anxiety for them. Just allow your rhythmic and gentle breathing to allow that stress to just melt away and be replaced with the divine light of Source. We're going to have another one of these readings where a lot of the cards are coming out reversed. That's okay, though. That doesn't necessarily mean things are bad. It can just be an indication that things are unclear at this time, and that's fine. That's why we're here. All right, and draw these cards. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, Libra. Oh, interesting. Okay. A lot of messages have been coming up for people about the next full moon, which will be in the sign of Leo. But not quite for you yet, Libra. All right, let's begin. So, the major arcana card that you have gotten from the Lunacy deck is Heka, which is an ancient Egyptian word for power and magic. So this would be the Magician card from this deck. We can see it's aligned with the planet of Mercury. So can be associated with air sign energies and also with the earth sign energies, because Mercury is also Virgo. And then we have the letter beta here, which is the number 2. And the Magician card, of course, is about our exquisite powers of manifestation and creation. The Magician is also an alchemist and creates that which he needs, which he desires. And he also has mastery over the 4 elements and the 4 suits of the minor arcana. So we have the swords, the wands, the chalices represented here by the cauldron, and the pentacles in his shield. And here we have the lunar mansion, which is between Taurus and Gemini, Al-Haka. Oh, T-Rex to you too, not carbs. Thank you for coming. This is about the white spot. It's kind of a reference to the third eye. And we're talking about, I believe this is a reference to the star of Maisa, which you can almost see is right there in the face of, I believe this to be Orion. And it's kind of like talking about the third eye. It's also talking about diadems and crowns. So now that I've gotten overly complicated and convoluted about this, generally the meaning of this has to do with favor from people in high positions. So this could be having friends who are politicians, having friends who have a lot of influence and are able to help you out then with things in your life. And that could be aiding your manifestation, right? Now, the lunar energy that goes along with this is the last quarter moon. So this would be as the moon is waning and losing its light, or rather being shadowed by the earth, however you want to think about it. But it's considered kind of an ebbing state of energy of the moon. So that we're dealing then with this last little window going into the dark of the new moon. So this could mean a few different things for you, Libra. It could be that your influence during this certain time has waned a bit. It could be that you are coming to the end of a cycle as well, a low energy cycle, so that soon it will have evened out and you can start a new building process. You might be wrapping things up at this time. So there are a few things it can mean. And of course, these are general readings. So I will trust you to use your own discernment in that case. Libra, here in the past for you, we have the Seven of Swords. And this card is reversed. So if there were any betrayals, any instances in which people tried to deceive you or tried to take things away from you without your noticing, those plots were uncovered. And this situation would no longer be affecting you in the present. Here in the current situation, we do have the Queen of Cups, and she's coming out reversed. So sometimes the Queen of Cups reversed can be somebody who is emotionally manipulative. She can also be somebody who is excessively needy. Could be somebody who has issues with alcohol, because the card does have a lot to do with water, and by extension, one can think of that as a connection to over-imbibing. Now, it's difficult to say as to whether this is you and the energy that you're bringing to a situation, or whether this is someone you are dealing with. This would be the place of the significator in the reading, but Libra, that doesn't necessarily mean that all of those traits apply to you, especially if this is somebody who has really emotionally manipulated you. It could be that they are in some ways controlling your life quite a bit. Now, we do see from the past that you have experience with these situations and that you know how to deal with them. This is crossed by the Five of Wands. And the Five of Wands is a card of creative competition. So none of these combatants are actually trying to kill each other. They all seem to be on pretty even footing, such that none of them, they're all armed with these sticks, with rods, with wands. None of them, have like pocket knives spared or any form of weapon that would be truly lethal. It looks as though they're mostly just honing their skills here. So this would be a situation where a lot of people around you are kind of, trying to pick out these new innovations, these new ways of doing things. And sometimes we pick up skills from one another. We can try different things. This worked really well for you. How would it work for me? I want that promotion. I want it too. Well, maybe I can help you out in certain ways. You can help me out in certain ways. And maybe one of us will get the spot. So, where we see that being the case, and with this Queen of Cups here, there might be then this tendency to get overly emotionally attached to these situations. Or that you feel that there's too much competition. And I'll tell you why I think that in a moment. We just haven't gotten there yet. And it is leading you into destructive habits, whether that's emotional manipulation or overconsumption of delicious beverages. So the MMCLI is the position in the reading that is down here at the bottom. And this represents the cusp of the third and fourth houses. If you imagine the 12 houses laid out over the Celtic cross. And it has to do with the origins of situations, the foundations upon which the goal or destiny will be built. We have here the Judgment card in reverse. The Judgment card is about people ascending to a higher state. So this is Pluto energy. It is also fire energy. Both of these being very transformative, though not necessarily correspondent to each other, right? Which is a very interesting paradox of the Judgment card, that we get more of that fire side of Plutonian transformational energy, which could even tie it in with scorpionic energies, but with the understanding that somewhere in between there is that alchemical transformation between the fire energy and the water energy of Scorpio. Everybody who is righteous being pulled up into the rapture. So because this card is showing up reversed, and it is showing up in this, it's the current state of affairs, but more so it is the current environment that's going to be setting up for what we find in the midheaven position. So judgment could be your judgment also. Honing your sense of discernment, Libra. Now, Libras tend to already have a very sharp sense of discernment, very capable of navigating gray area, not getting overly bogged down by the black and white of issues. The polarity of things can be kind of daunting for Libra sometimes, but again, it really depends on how much you have been developing yourself as to how your traits will come out. So, in this particular case, there might be, again, with the Queen of Cups, too much emotional attachment. The Queen of Cups is also a very maternal person. So there's, a fine line between being a really good mother and being overly soft or over mothering or being a helicopter. And in this particular case, that might be clouding somebody's judgment regarding some of these issues. Here in the future, we have the Ten of Wands. And the Ten of Wands is coming up, upright, which means that this is something you can see quite clearly in your future. The Ten of Wands is burdens. You can see it's almost like he can't even carry another single stick here. The Ten of Wands can be about oppression. Why is he carrying all these sticks? Is it for his own benefit? Most likely it is for the benefit of someone else who doesn't have to do this back-breaking labor. And it's also important to remember that the Ten of Wands represents the end of a cycle. After this, literally cannot carry one more stick. And so the cycle the back breaks and the cycle begins anew. And in the final outcome, or the goal or destiny position, so this is the midheaven, we have the Eight of Wands showing up reversed. Now, the Eight of Wands is about swift closure and a finite ending to something that is not particularly painful. A lot of times we have these finite endings, and they are finite because there is pain associated with them. But in the case of the Eight of Wands, it's not a particularly painful ending, but there is a lot of closure associated with it. So I bring this up because here with the Five of Wands, we have that multiplied into this Ten of Wands. That if there were twice as many competitors, perhaps, we would end up with this burdensome situation, this oppression. And that is eventually what is going to happen. It could be that there is not enough criteria being applied to some certain situation. I don't know, Libra, whether you're a teacher or you instruct people in some way, or perhaps you are a judge of some kind and you are allowing people, because of softness in your heart, to compete for things, but you're letting too many people slip through. Now, this could apply to a lot of different situations. So it's not necessarily one thing or another. It could even be in your dating life, that you're dating around, and maybe some of the people that you're dating, you need to kind of narrow down your criteria. Whether or not you intend to eventually narrow it down to a monogamous relationship or not. It might be that some of these people just are not, they're going to end up being more burdensome to you than beneficial. Because this Eight of Wands is not yet well defined. That is why it's showing up in the reverse. That whatever this ending will be is not yet defined. It's up to you to determine. And this is because there is not enough criteria being put on something. In order to ascend to one's highest and best state, it is important to put in a certain amount of work. It is important to be judged by certain criteria. It could be that you are the one bestowing favor upon others. And that's what this means, where we're seeing favor from influential persons coupled with this power for manifestation. That is not going to last forever for you if you're allowing people to slip through who perhaps shouldn't. So there was quite a bit to that reading, and I will just allow you, Libra, to consider it always to your highest and best. And I also want to reiterate at this time that nothing I say in these readings is going to supersede the importance of your free will. So that is going to conclude the Libra reading for this week. And now I am going to move on to the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius, Aquarius. So Aquarius, if you would, just kind of gently allow any issues you'd like to address in the reading to float to the forefront of your thoughts. I do want to reiterate my thanks to all of you who watch and support my channel. Oh, this is really interesting. Boy, it sure is Aquarius. This one. Oh, free space. So maybe the moon has nothing to do with it this time. Or maybe the moon's significance is up to you. Oh. All right. Or rather, there's not a lunar mansion associated with this. Ah, okay, cool. So the card from the lunacy deck, the major arcana that I've pulled for you, is Dynamis. And this is your opposite Leo's card. So we had a similar instance with Gemini where temperance came out for them in their reading. Dynamis is about persuasion. So more so even than strength. It's like Jedi mind tricks. It's this invisible force. This is a theta, and the theta has the numerical value of 9. So this woman is kind of dazzling the lion here on this card using her fancy light tricks of the mind. As far as lunar cycle energy, where in this cycle are you? We are at waxing gibbous. So this could be right before the next full moon, but this could also describe right before your energy reaches its fullest as far as your powers of persuasion are concerned. And finally, I have a couple of blank moon cards in my lunar mansions part of the deck, and one of those came out. So it's kind of like a free space. It's kind of like saying, it would be almost like the Wheel of Fortune regarding the lunar mansions, that any possibility that you can imagine is coming through at this time. So Aquarius, here in your past, we have the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups is a card of departure. It is a card of leaving things behind. Now, it is upright and it is in the past position. So that shows, and I have other reasons for thinking this as well, which we'll get into momentarily, that you have recently left things behind and you are still kind of in the middle of this transition. So this person may or may not even know where they are going at this point, but they are not content with what they have constructed up until this point and are thus moving on. So here in the current situation, some of you might be seeking out jobs that would aid you in relocation. And I say that because we have the Page of Cups crossing the main energy of the significator, which is the Six of Swords reversed. So here we can see that you are leaving one situation, but perhaps you have not yet arrived at your destination. You're still in the middle of the journey. You can see that this person, of course, having their back to the scene or to us here, the viewer, and this person approaching the viewer. The Page of Cups being some kind of offer. So this could be a job offer, but it could also be, if you're in a long distance relationship, that somebody is offering for you to move in with them so that you can be closer together. So both of those things are possible. And we do have a few things showing up in the reading to reinforce this being a romantic reading. But of course, that is not necessarily the case, so I will try to read for a few scenarios. So, for some of you, if this is a love reading, we have the Two of Cups in the Imam Silai. And as I've mentioned in the previous readings, that the Imam Silai is the cusp between the third and fourth houses. So just kind of imagine if there is a 12 houses wheel laid out on top of a Celtic cross spread. This represents the origins of the situation and the foundation upon which your goal or destiny will be built. So this is a very close bond between two people. This can be a romantic relationship, but it can also be a very close friendship, a partnership of both business and emotional ties. So it could be somebody offering to be your roommate, even, depending on, of course, what you're coming to the reading for. The next card in your future, Aquarius, is fellow air sign Gemini's card in the Major Arcana. So that would be the Lover's card. And of course, if you are coming to this as a love reading, that would be very good for your future with this other person. And if you are coming into this as this being just a very close emotional bond that might also have business aspects tied up with it, the Lover's card is going to be about the choices. It's going to be about negotiations. It's going to be about the ability to maintain within this partnership a good working relationship. So I would say that would be very harmonious. And there might even be some cases where you might not have gone into this situation intending to end up in a love relationship, but that might be what ends up happening. Now, the final card here is a big old can of worms in some senses. Now, we have the Seven of Cups here, and this card is upright. And this is in the midheaven position. So this is going to be a direct result of these two cups. And one way that you could even see this working is this being the offer, this being what is offered, and through alchemy, all of these things coming together to generate almost as many cups, right, as what you had walked away from. So in what seems like a very short time, because all of these cards are upright, it does look like there is a person who either has already come into your life or will be coming into your life shortly. This Page of Cups, whatever this offer is going to be a catalyst for you in opening up whatever it is that you desire, Aquarius. So the Seven of Cups is not necessarily bad in this case, but it does represent more options than you'll really be able to evaluate in a brief span of time coming into play in the eventual future. And it could be that you already see the means by which this will take place. All right, air signs. Thank you so much for joining me today for your reading. I greatly appreciate your continued support. I am going now over to the member side of the channel to do some crystal scrying with this very, very beautiful amethyst. This very beautiful amethyst crystal.